Bana, kukata awa, oyo bakata liboso, kukata maboko awa.
Bongo bitumba oyo ba mindele ba memaki na bino bo bundaki na bango to.
Obuna mindele zo makasi wapi. Makasi uti pale.
Mindele akautu bazaki penza batu mabe.
Mabe luta tukuluta mabe. Kokoto na zamba, bokoti na zamba te bokubika wapi. Yari kama munene.
Bongo wana bazo senga bomemelaka bango kautu tangu nyoso.
Nyoso. Kausuto mono timpasi mpenza.
If he ever came to be challenged, as he was later, over his authority over this territory, he would be able to produce these ostensible contracts. So Stanley was absolutely crucial in achieving that.
Having tricked the Africans, the king now set about convincing the European powers that he should be allowed to own this vast African colony. This time, it wasn't magic, it was diplomacy. By 1884, the great powers were all lined up in Berlin to hand over the Congo to the king. No Africans were invited.
Ce document, c'est l'acte général de la conférence du Congo, publié le 26 février 1885 à Berlin. Ce document est connu dans l'histoire comme étant l'acte général de la conférence de Berlin. Léopold II, roi de Belge, n'était pas présent à Berlin.
The conference gave Leopold everything he wanted.
It's very remarkable to see that King Leopold managed to trick the great powers at that time. He promised that everybody would have access to that, there would be free trade, that if there was anything to be gained, that everybody could participate in the loot. And there was quite some remorse afterwards in other countries that he got away with it. But he did.
Le Congo est à peine reconnu par les grandes puissances comme propriété personnelle de Léopold II que le roi met en branle sa machine infernale. Dès le 1er juillet 1885...
10 avril 1895. 6 indigènes tués. Village livré aux flammes. Déjeuner puis retour. 17 avril 1895. Parti avec 80 hommes pour Baouro. Une quinzaine de personnes tuées. 25 avril. Arrivé à Iteke. Brûler le village ainsi que Yambi. Ilongo. Brûler le village et tuer un indigène. Arrivé à Bakolo à 16 h. Brûlé. Arrivé à Yabumba à 11h40. Je fais brûler le village. Arrivé à Likombe à 3 h. Tout à coup, nous sommes attaqués. 2 soldats sont tués à côté de moi. Après quelques instants d'une fusillade bien nourrie, les indigènes prennent la fuite en laissant 13 des leurs sur le terrain. Je fais mettre le feu aux cases. « 8 juin. Je me dirige ensuite sur Yamapete. Je fais incendier le village. Après un bon déjeuner, nous rentrons en triomphe à Bazoko, avec nos sanglants trophées. 10 juin. Nous trouvons Yambisi. Nous envoyons plusieurs groupes de soldats battre la plaine. Ils reviennent quelques heures après avec 11 têtes et 9 prisonniers. Le 22 juin. On nous amène 3 prisonniers dans la matinée. 3 autres vers le soir et 3 têtes sont apportées. Un homme de Bana, parcourant la forêt en appelant un grand cri sa femme et son enfant égaré, reçoit une balle d'une de nos sentinelles. On nous apporte sa tête. Jamais j'ai vu une telle expression de désespoir, d'effarement. Nous faisons incendier Yambissi.
Ik denk dat inderdaad Leopold II morele verantwoordelijkheid draagt voor wat binnen het systeem waar hij achter stond en dat hij heeft georganiseerd, ja, dat hij daar de morele verantwoordelijkheid voor draagt, natuurlijk, dat is duidelijk.
As the death toll rose in the Congo, Leopold was busy consolidating his reputation as a philanthropist and humanitarian. The king was facing opposition from what were known at that time as Arab slavers, who still controlled a large part of his Congo. Defeating the Arabs was heralded as freeing the Congo from slavery, but in reality Leopold was getting rid of his competitors. The Royal Army Museum in Brussels represents the Arab campaign as a proud moment in Belgian history.
Ik denk dat inderdaad Leopold II de morele verantwoordelijkheid draagt voor wat binnen het systeem waar hij achter stond en dat hij heeft georganiseerd, ja, dat hij daar de morele verantwoordelijkheid voor draagt, natuurlijk, dat is duidelijk.
As the death toll rose in the Congo, Leopold was busy consolidating his reputation as a philanthropist and humanitarian. The king was facing opposition from what were known at that time as Arab slavers, who still controlled a large part of his Congo. Defeating the Arabs was heralded as freeing the Congo from slavery, but in reality Leopold was getting rid of his competitors. The Royal Army Museum in Brussels represents the Arab campaign as a proud moment in Belgian history. Leopold built this museum too. Leopold also made sure that Belgian deaths in the campaign were not wasted. Combat fatalities were recreated as patriotic martyrs. Congolese deaths in the king's race for rubber were completely ignored.
King Leopold certainly did not deliberately.
Profits all went to Belgium, but how much remains in the hands of the royal family today is still a matter of speculation. Leopold once said about his Congo, "What I do there is done as a Christian duty to the poor Africans, and I do not wish to have 1 franc back of all the money I have expended," and punish violently for refusal or failure to deliver. The reign of terror had begun. «
10 avril 1895. 6 indigènes tués. Village livré aux flammes. Déjeuner puis retour. 17 avril 1895. Parti avec 80 hommes pour Baouro. Une quinzaine de personnes tuées. 25 avril. Arrivée à Iteke. Brûler le village ainsi que Yambi. Ilongo. Brûler le village et tuer un indigène. Arrivé à Bakolo à 16 h. Brûlé. Arrivé à Yabumba à 11h40. Je fais brûler le village. Arrivé à Likombe à 3 h. Tout à coup, nous sommes attaqués. 2 soldats sont tués à côté de moi. Après quelques instants d'une fusillade bien nourrie, les indigènes prennent la fuite en laissant 13 des leurs sur le terrain. Je fais mettre le feu aux cases. « 8 juin. Je me dirige ensuite sur Yamapete. Je fais incendier le village. Après un bon déjeuner, nous rentrons en triomphe à Bazoko, avec nos sanglants trophées. 10 juin, nous trouvons Yambissi. Nous envoyons plusieurs groupes de soldats battre la plaine. Ils reviennent quelques heures après avec 11 têtes et 9 prisonniers.
Maboko ana kukata awa oyo bakata liboso kukata maboko awa.
Bongo bitumba oyo ba mindele ba memaki na bino bobundaki na bango to
obunda mindele zo makasi wapi makasi uti pale.
mindelo akautu bazaki penza batu mabe
mabe luta tukuluta mabe kopoto na zamba bokoti na zamba te bokubika wapi yari kama munene.
Bongo wana bazosenga bomemelaka bango kautu tangu nyonso
kausuto mono kimpasi mpenza.
In each army unit on Lake Tumba, where the missionary Joseph Clark lived.
mokonto sepeli ndenge toyei kokutana na mboka ya Ikoko. Topesi yo mbote boyamba biso na kati ya mboka malamu tokotungisa bino mingi te toza kaka koleka toza bapaya.
nasepeli mingi na makambo oyo ozali koyebisa ngai.
Tokende kaka tozolanda yo.
Joseph Clark was known to the Africans then and now as Pebi. He had been in the Congo for over 20 years. Clark and his wife supplied evidence and witnesses of the state's atrocities. Casement stayed with them for 17 days.
Oyo esika ndako yango ezalaki. Oyo ezaki mire ya ebale. Nongwa tikuna. Monsieur Soupeli banga lowa. Oyo esika Monsieur Clark azandaki. Awo. Tango wana kaunchu kilo jaune. Mais ce qui est kokisi te babomi to bakati ya maboko.
Mokolo mosusu babomaka ndeko na ngai ya mwasi pe bakataka ye moto, maboko na makolo po alataki pauni. Kombo ya ye Mobe.
The villagers of Ikoko still have to use the same school and church that Joseph Clark built for them 100 years ago.
Koko Clark ayaki olakisa biso makambo ya bien. On peut ti biso ba civiliser.
On a beach by Lake Tumba, Casement recorded how a boy had both his hands beaten off by soldiers, while a white officer known as Ikatankoi, the leopard's paw, stood by.
The white man, Ikatankoi, was not far off and could see what they were doing. Ikatankoi was drinking palm wine, while the soldiers beat the boy's hands off with their rifle butts against a tree.
The boy's name was Mola. Morel published his photograph in the West African Mail.
Arrived unannounced at Ifomi. Found 2 company sentries guarding 15 women. 5 of the women were breastfeeding. 3 were pregnant. The 15 women were tied together, either neck to neck or ankle to ankle, to secure them for the night. And in this posture I saw them twice during the evening. They were then trying to huddle round a fire.
casement was so horrified by everything that he'd seen that on the day he left for England, he delivered a vitriolic letter to the Governor-General, knowing full well that meant that he would never be allowed to return.